Thank you, and welcome to the third annual Connors, the award show that is hosted by yours truly, Connor Old. This is the third annual. I can't believe it's been 3 years, but if you don't know, I don't like to give monologues, so I'll give you the Oscar sort of viewers a little bit of an insight to what's going on here. It's just my sort of third annual Connors Award show where I give my predicts on Oscar sort of similar categories, but I think on what I think is going to win. So sometimes I have similarities with the Oscars, like I have the big acting categories, but a lot of times I have different nominees, and I give my thoughts and my opinions, and it's structured similarly to an award show. Essentially a top 10 list, but with way more movies to choose from because there's so many different categories that I want to talk about. It's so much fun. I have a lot of fun with it each year. So if it's not your type of Oscar video, you can skip ahead to the next one. Don't worry, there's still going to be Oscar videos coming. But this one right now, we're going to have a little bit of fun. And if you know me and you know the Connors, this isn't a regular award show. We're not going to do a monologue. I'm not a comedian. I'm an Oscar pundit and a movie lover. And I want to talk about some movies here today. Going over into the very first category, which will be a fun one, Best Supporting Actor. So I really want to give all the sort of love to each and every one of these categories. So what I'll do is I'll go through the nominees, I'll say the winner, and then I'll explain and sort of, gush about every single one. So we have Tom Waits, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs; Josh Brolin, Avengers Infinity War; Daniel Kaluuya, Widows; Casey Affleck, Old Man and the Gun; and Josh Hamilton for 8th grade. And the winner is Casey Affleck for Old Man and the Gun. An eclectic list, none of which appear on the Academy's Best Supporting Actor race, even though there's plenty of great supporting actors. In my opinion, this year for me personally was a great year for movies in general. I loved a lot of movies, so these were really hard to pick, especially this category. I want to mention someone like Hugh Grant for Paddington 2, or other guys like that. Even someone like Mahershala Ali in Green Book was fantastic, or Richard E. Grant in Can You Ever Forgive Me, a movie I really enjoyed. But going for my first pick here, Tom Waits' The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. He has his own anthology episode where it's just him, Mr. Pocket, and just trying to find that, and then how that story progresses and how it ends and how he sort of overcomes that is so much fun. You never think, Tom Waits, of course he should play a gold miner, a prospector in that way, and he does it so brilliantly, so beautifully. He has such a charm to him that, I think is much needed in this character, because he really just carries this entire anthology on his shoulders, and there's a lot of range of emotions being by himself. It's a lot of fun. And I highly recommend you guys check out Ballad of Buster Scruggs and Tom Waits' brilliant performance. I mean, it's a role made for him in my mind. Next pick here is Josh Brolin from Avengers Infinity War. I really loved Avengers Infinity War. It was just an amazing moment in the theater, and I think that one of the best parts about the movie was that it focused less on the heroes and focused on Thanos and making sure that this villain, Marvel has a bad history of villains, but this is an amazing villain. Of course, this year we also had Killmonger, Michael B. Jordan for Black Panther. He almost made it here with another phenomenal performance. And similarly to Killmonger or Thanos, you understand where they're coming from. It has a good villain motive. There's some emotion behind that sort of CG blue Thanos face that sort of looks like Josh Brolin. That Josh Brolin really sort of emotes in a lot of ways, and the sort of build-up has been so worth it. This Thanos story is beautifully told, and he did an amazing job with the material. And then next pick here, Daniel Kaluuya for Widows. He was so menacing in this film. This is the only nomination from Widows, even though I really enjoyed the film. I almost got Elizabeth Debicki for the Best Supporting Actress, and maybe the Best Editing or Best Cinematography for Sean Bobbitt. Overall sort of tense, thrilling. Actually, this is not the only other nomination. There's another one. I enjoy the film. It's a tense, really great thriller that sort of elevates sort of a generic sort of heist genre in a lot of ways by talking about all these modern day issues, whether it be sort of the violence that's going in Chicago versus sort of the politics, corrupt politics that's going on. It's very interesting sort of character study. Maybe too much in a lot of ways because there's so many themes going on, but there's a lot to chew on, and I definitely respect that. In regards to Daniel Kaluuya for his performance, he's the scariest person I saw all year. Even more menacing than someone like Thanos. He was incredibly intimidating. I'm thinking of that sort of gym scene where they do sort of a 360 continual shot. Really extraordinary. And I think his performance from Get Out last year now to this year is such a huge difference. I mean, there's so much range with this guy, and to portray such a menacing, dark villain like this, you should show how much of an amazing actor he is, and maybe how underutilized he was in Black Panther, but how amazing he was utilized here as this really great, menacing villain. And then Josh Hamilton for 8th grade. I love 8th grade so much, and I think this could be the year of the good dad, and Josh Hamilton is definitely the great good dad. He's just, really attentive and really pays attention and cares, and he's trying to do it by himself. And he's just always just there to listen. And his standout scene, which should be his Oscar scene, is him at the campfire with his daughter when she says, I just want to burn some stuff, and he goes, okay, let's do it. And then he talks to her and really, professes his love in a way that she actually hears this time. He's been doing it the entire movie, but this one is really genuine emotion, and the way he sort of looks at her almost feels like he's looking straight at the camera and into our soul. An incredible, amazing performance from a guy personally I never even knew about, but he did an amazing job. He's not someone I really sort of knew about too much, but did amazing. And then, of course, the winner now, Casey Affleck for Old Man and the Gun. You will be seeing Old Man and the Gun quite a few times here in this category, in these episodes, because I just loved that movie, and I loved his performance in it. Casey Affleck, I think, he's great at sort of this more subtle, almost tired person that can maybe explode and sort of maybe is repressing his sort of maybe Irish Catholic feelings. That's what I sort of feel with him in something like Manchester by the Sea and other movies like that. This is once again working with David Lowry. Does just a great job as this detective, where before we see a tired detective, that maybe he'll have spurts of anger and he'll have spurts of passion. Casey Affleck definitely has that, but it's a lot subtler and it's a lot more the tired. I mean, he's always just sort of sitting there. He's a great dad, once again, similar to Josh Hamilton with his kids. Does some spry things with his wife. There's a real palpable sense of their amazing relationship, but also an interest and a very intrigue into Robert Redford's character and Forrest, and just sort of understanding where he's coming from and why he's doing it, and figuring out the sort of mystery in sort of a smiling way. And he has delivers so many great lines, like so he was, and people are trying to, there's a great scene where people are trying to describe the Robert to him, and he goes, they're trying to figure out the right words, and he goes, was he nice? And they go, yeah, he was a gentleman. And he's sort of just seeing this sort of thread, and when he gets the bill that has his own name on it, there's so many of these little great moments, and the sort of facial reactions that Casey Affleck brings, the sort of admiration for what he's doing, but also the interest and the passion for getting into it, but also sort of feeling like a real hometown cop in the way that he's not trying to take a lot of attention for himself. He's the detective that got on the news and everyone was so proud of him, but he's sort of just like, I'm not too much into the fame, I'm just here to do the job. A real earnest character, a real honest character. One of Casey Affleck's best performances, and just the way he delivers every single line, it's amazing. It makes you smile, and he actually adds to a lot of this charm of the film that I think people overlook, and I think Casey Affleck did an amazing job. So Casey, congratulations on your Connor. The next category, I'm sure you guessed, is Best Supporting Actress. And the nominees are Amy Adams for Vice, Sissy Spacek for The Old Man and the Gun, Dolly Wells for Can You Ever Forgive Me, Zazie Beetz, Deadpool 2, and Vanessa Kirby for Mission Impossible Fallout. And your winner is Vanessa Kirby, Mission Impossible Fallout. So let's go over to the first nominee here, which is Amy Adams for Vice. Amy Adams, if you don't know, she's been showing up at pretty much every one of these award shows, is my favorite actress of all time. I think she's one of the best actors in the world, male or female, doesn't matter, currently working. I'm so glad she got her 6th nomination for Vice. And she has an amazing performance. I mean, she really starts off the movie with a big sort of jump. We sort of learn that the idea that Lynn Cheney, her character, that whoever sort of Lynn married would be either the president or the vice president of the United States, because she was so instrumental and so sort of motivating in a lot of ways. She got him into Yale, but then at the beginning of the film, where we see Dick Cheney as sort of just working on the power lines, and she makes this amazing speech of how he needs to get his stuff together. Did I back the wrong horse? And a powerful scene. Really sort of watching, actually the second time I watched it for her performance, and I really sort of appreciated that. Similar, sort of against other characters, something like, I thought Sam Rockwell, congratulations on the Oscar nomination, did a bit of just a generic impersonation and was barely on the screen. Amy Adams, even when she's not on screen, even when she's not the focal point, she's in the back, she's planning, similar to a master character, but in real life politics. She does an amazing job, and when she has to explode, she explodes, and she has a great sort of dual sort of loving aspect to it, but also sort of a conniving sort of political advantage point that she does amazingly. Such a great job for Amy Adams, and hard for her not to win because I love her so much. Sissy Spacek for Old Man and the Gun. She talked about Casey, how he did a great job. Sissy does a great job, going with Robert Redford and really building that relationship and sort of making him a different man, but also at the end of the day, sort of letting him be and letting him do what he wants to do, and sort of not trying to keep him locked down as a bird, trying to enjoy those moments with him and enjoy the sort of passenger and the drifter that came through his life. And she tries to make an effort, but she sort of accepts in a lot of ways what he does. And there's a great sort of romance between the two that's so palpable that there's so many just sort of expectations that are thrown out, I think, at that age, and you sort of just go straight to the heart of it. And it seems like the third time they're meeting, they're talking about sort of their life and how it planned out. And there's this great scene in the porch that's so quiet, but talks about so many great themes that you see. A ghost story tries to tackle, but in this way, sort of does it a lot more subtly and a lot more sort of just hinting it, and then moving on to the next scene for you to think about it. Some really great moments, and Sissy Spacek delivers those beautiful lines once again, and has a great palpable romance and chemistry with Robert Redford. And then Dolly for Can You Ever Forgive Me? Another great romance. The sort of quiet, subtle, not sure sort of romance that her character has with Melissa McCarthy's in Can You Ever Forgive Me? If you don't know Can You Ever Forgive Me, Melissa McCarthy, she plays Lee Israel, who's forging a lot of books. That's sort of the forging letters and whatnot. That was sort of the main sort of drive of the story, but there's also this sort of romance aspect, being that Melissa McCarthy's character Lee Israel was gay, and she was sort of trying to figure out a relationship with Dolly Wells, and sort of the coyness, I guess, I sort of appeal to something like A Carol, for example, a movie I really love, of just sort of the not knowing for sure, trying to get the right signs to see if you guys are both on the same page or just friends. And Dolly Wells does a great job as a sort of sweet, bright-eyed, beautiful actress, and really it conveys a lot of her emotions and sort of the subtlety where you can't overtly say it, but there's so much going on underneath, and there's so many great moments with her character. I think no one's really talking about her, and it's a shame because she was one of my favorite actresses all year. I mean, she was really also close to winning this award as well. Zazie Beetz on Deadpool 2. I had to get her on here just because when I saw that performance, I'm like, she is so cool. I don't know how someone can get so cool. I want her to be the next James Bond. She was just, sort of sly, and her idea was, her superpower was luck, but she's just really lucky, which I think is just a great idea. And then she sort of goes on and sort of, there's these great moments when things are flying all around her and she's not getting touched by anything, and she's just shooting things. And the sort of the flow of her character and the cadence of how she delivers a lot of her lines was so sort of cool and effervescent, and I think that she's just one of the coolest movie characters of the year. And then my final pick here, and the winner, Vanessa Kirby for Mission Impossible Fallout. I just went for that because I think I love Mission Impossible Fallout, and Vanessa Kirby was actually the standout for me. Tom Cruise was amazing as always. The team was amazing as always. I thought Henry Cavill did a great job. But Vanessa Kirby did what the amazing sort of femme fatale character that we don't see too often, and sort of turned it on its head in a lot of ways. She used sort of her sexuality and her obvious looks to her advantage to try to make deals. But then when we go into the back and she's working with her brother, she's obviously the top dog. She's the one sort of orchestrating a lot of things. She's smart. And then one thing that was so rewarding with the film is that when she's talking to Tom Cruise and then she just lunges in for a kiss, and it's just a great character progression in the smaller part of the movie, because it's like she's been thinking about it, and there's sort of much of this coyness that you would see in maybe a 40s kind of noir picture, but they never sort of actually make that action. But when it does, it comes out of nowhere, and it feels very genuine, it feels emotional, and it feels different. And she plays that sort of sexy femme fatale character, but then she has incredible smarts behind her, and you understand that she's running a lot of this operation, and she's sort of this self-made businesswoman, but that she also has this undesiring passion for Tom Cruise, and that's her struggle that is put in the background. There's so much to talk about in Mission Impossible Fallout, and I think her portion is maybe the most interesting. I loved her performance, and I'm definitely going to check her out on whatever she does next. Okay, let's take a quick commercial break to talk about the next category, which is Best Ensemble. All right, we're back. Best moment / scene in the film. I love this category. I thought of it this year, and I thought there's so many great moments, and then otherwise maybe not so great movies that I really enjoyed and I just want to talk about. Actually, a lot of these movies I've talked about and I really enjoyed, which makes sense, but I really want to single out certain moments in each of these films that are so great. So the nominees are The Old Man and the Guns, Montage at the end of First Reformed, Shallow from A Star Is Born, The Snap from Avengers Infinity War, and You Were Never Really Here's second unsatisfying kill. And the winner is The Snap, Avengers Infinity War. Alright, so the first one here, I went with Old Man and the Gun, the montage. Just the idea of them breaking into a different style of filmmaking and sort of a flashback in a lot of ways It's very fitting that this is Robert Redford's last movie, which becomes sort of the narrative of the movie, which is kind of disappointing because there's so many great things to talk about the movie. But really his last movie, and he does an amazing sort of montage here and a tribute in a lot of ways, which feels like a great send-off. They use old footage from some of his old movies, other things that just don't show his face, that sort of go throughout the progression of his life, in this amazing, beautiful sequence that sort of takes a break and appreciates Robert Redford for what he truly is. It's an amazing montage and it just fits so beautifully in the film, and a great, even more as you know, it's the final film for Robert Redford, supposedly. The end of First Reformed, I mean, this is a movie that you can debate and talk about, and I think the ending is so sort of debatable in a lot of ways. Is it real? Is it not? What's happening? What really happened? There's so much tension that's been building up to this moment, and then how it turns out, and this sort of adds in sort of maybe the strange elements of the film, and it really sort of hammers home that part of the film. I really enjoyed it, and I think there's so much interesting to it. And once you see it, once it ended, I got really hit by, whoa, what did I find? And I tried to process it, and it was an interest, and I wanted to go back and rewatch it and just revel in sort of its greatness in a lot of ways. The Shallow, for A Star Is Born, this almost won. I have a very complicated relationship with A Star Is Born, just because I think the lead up to Shallow, and including Shallow, is one of the best filmmaking things I've seen in the past couple of years. But I think after that, and with the exception of maybe the end, I think it's actually really poor and sort of degrades a lot of stuff that just happened and makes me really upset. So it's very much a love and hate relationship, because the beginning, that first date, the way it sort of flows together, and the relationship and their palpable chemistry, until the point where he brings her up on stage and it hits you with a ton of bricks, because when she belches from the sort of the bottom of her stomach, I'm off the deep end, watch as I dive in. I mean, there's so much power to it. I listened to that song so many times, the way the camera sort of just floats and cuts between Bradley and her closing her eyes and just sort of giving full emotion. I mean, there's nothing more cinematic in my mind. And there's sort of this climax. I've watched A Star Is Born a couple times now, and I just ended at Shallow, because I'm like, this is great, and it's over, and she rides off to the sunset. And maybe I don't like that. The rest of the film is kind of depressing. I don't think that's really my issue with it. A lot of it is sort of how her character, Allie's character, sort of plays out. I didn't really appreciate it. I guess maybe it's just that's A Star Is Born story, but I think there was some sort of, I don't know, I guess, misunderstandings, or I just didn't believe a lot of the character motivations. But that's another discussion. I want to celebrate The Shallow in the whole moment, because it's amazing and it's just so powerful. And I think that's the moment when people just get sort of emotionally overwhelmed, and so did I in the theater. I loved it. Then You Were Never Really Here's second unsatisfying kill. The first unsatisfying kill, when you thought this sort of hammer of a man is trying to go and just, kill all these people, and they cut the security footage, and it immediately sort of gets rid of that sort of satisfaction. But then you're like, oh, okay, well, the movie's not over. It's still going to be more. Maybe there's going to be another big action scene I can really sort of round behind it and revel in the violence. And then when it happens again, and then when he goes to the house, and we see a cut of, the aftermath, essentially. Or maybe you hear something, in the background, not using security footage. It becomes so apparent and really just hits you, and I guess hit me the second time. Well, the first time I thought it was a stylistic choice, okay, but the second time it was a story choice and a thematic choice. That this man, who is so involved with violence, tries to do a good thing, and that in a lot of ways, Lynn Ramsey sort of examining our relationship with the film. Are we sort of obsessed with violence? So by not showing it to us, it makes us feel like the character of Joaquin Phoenix's character, that he doesn't want to do this, but he's in this world, and we're in this world, and we want to see it, but when we don't, it feels so you feel sort of shallow, and there's sort of a hole in your stomach, and you feel so it's unsatisfying, but then it makes you reflect on yourself and why you're watching this and why you're connected to this type of film. It's a brilliant moment, and I think there's so many film themes I want to talk about, but I may talk about that a little bit later. But then the winner, the snap, Avengers: Infinity War. That was the best moment of the year in film for me. It almost, The Shallow almost beat it, but this was just a moment in the film where, even though Avengers: Infinity War, I thought there's some muddled action, and I didn't think what they did was great, but the end decision they made to kill off all these sort of new characters and have it just be the main four guys, I thought was brilliant. I loved it. I lost my mind. Not that I didn't think it was going to happen, because I didn't predict, but I thought it was a possibility. I was surprised and shocked that they did it, but I loved the choice. As soon as I saw it, I was like, what? And I was like, I love it. I know they're coming back. I don't understand that, but I still love the choice that the final film was going to be these four, because when I saw the film, I was like, there's just too many people. There's just too much going on. I think Civil War was a good balance, but Avengers: Infinity War, just too much. And I think maybe the filmmakers understood that, and now by having an Endgame, having just these four, really a character study with these heroes, is really the end conclusion to the Avengers. Because this one, just like, it's the Marvel movie, but this one, it's the Avengers. It's the original four. It's these characters and their progression and their arc and the end of the series. I can't wait for Endgame. It made me so excited for the next movie. I want to see Endgame right away. I was like, how could I wait a year? This is impossible. But that snap was just an amazing moment, and let the whole theater stunned. My friends, we were looking at each other, and we were so stunned and shocked. What? You know, it was one of the great moments of film of all time for me. I just loved that so much. And it's because it was, you know, a great emotional reaction. I was stunned. I was really stunned. All right, so we go into another new category which I haven't done, which is best trailer, which I wanted to do last year. Probably last year would have been Logan, the Hurt trailer. Johnny Cash's Hurt. That was an amazing trailer. I've seen over and over again, and I've seen a lot of these trailers over and over again, just rewatching them. But here are the nominees: Vice trailer number 1, Mission Impossible Fallout official trailer, Holmes and Watson official trailer, mid-90s official trailer, and Avengers Endgame trailer. The winner is Mission Impossible Fallout official trailer. So the first one here, Vice trailer. I was excited for the film because I like The Big Short. I love Adam McKay. Amy Adams was going to be in it. Christian Bale. I mean, these are my two favorite actors. And really, two of my top 5 favorite actors. I was like, yes, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for an amazing movie. And when I saw that trailer, I was like, holy, this is going to be great. Using that sort of song by The Killers, The Man, which I've listened to so many times, you know, has a great sort of rhythm and cadence and beat to it, and then sort of really telling me the story, which I didn't know about, which is kind of what the movie's trying to say, which is, you know, that Dick Cheney was really the president and he was doing a lot of things, and George was sort of he was sort of just the face of it all, but Dick was doing a lot more than a regular vice president would, and his sort of rise to power. And I'm seeing, you know, Sam Rockwell as George Bush holding that chicken wing. I was like, oh yeah, that's so amazing. This is a great job. And then sort of how Christian was going to play this as a very sort of soft, timid, quiet guy. I didn't know much about Dick Cheney, but I loved it. And just sort of the little title cards, you know, Steve Carell as Donald Rumsfeld, Christian Bale as Dick Cheney, Amy Adams as Lynn Cheney, you know, and just the beat of the trailer was so amazing. It wanted me to see the movie right away, and I saw it day one because of that trailer. Holmes and Watson, maybe this is not an amazing trailer because I actually didn't see the movie, but the only reason I didn't see the movie is because I had so many friends and people say, don't watch it, it's terrible. I walked out, you know, the first 10 minutes, I'm like, I'm not going to spend $13, $14 on a movie ticket just to walk out into it, and I just didn't want to, I don't know, subject myself to, you know, potentially bad movie with Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly when I can just, you know, watch, stream, you know, buy for $4, rent it one day, and then if I don't like it, just turn it off, which is maybe less of an investment. But I thought the trailer was really funny. I thought there was some, you know, great moments, you know, of her, you know, the female being a doctor, and then, you know, being sort of laughing at that, and then asking her for some, you know, would you like some heroin, you know, sort of the commentary of the old doctors, and then when he's trying to shoot the bees, I mean, I laughed and I thought it was so funny. And I was like, yes, they're back. They're going to be another great Step Brothers movie. It looks very funny. And the chemistry, I just couldn't wait for the chemistry. Maybe some of my own personal opinions that I put onto it, but I was so hyped for that trailer once I saw it. The next one here I have is mid-90s. This one because it was like, wow, what a look. I mean, I think Jonah Hill really captured the look of this sort of, the way he shot it felt very 90s, sort of has a purple sort of gleam to it in a lot of ways, sort of a very much film sort of grimy aspect to it, and feels raw and real and similar to how sort of the life is in Los Angeles, and a great sort of capture of the Los Angeles scene. And then the Wu-Tang Clan, I believe, is the song. I just remember how it starts, you know, after laughter comes tears. You know, I'm forgetting the name of the song, but I listened to that a bunch as well, and just that the way he understood the style. Once I saw the image of it, I was like, "Whoa, this looks great!" And then the song and how it felt so real, and how it built up, and sort of it came almost an orchestral at the end, and it just has so much energy, and it builds, and it's like, bang! This is the movie, and it's such a statement. I couldn't wait to see the movie, and I saw the movie, and I really enjoyed it. And then Avengers Endgame trailer, just because I think this is one of the best trailers they've done, because it's sort of starts off, we're all calm, we're seeing where everyone is, and then sort of the stakes of it, and you know what happened. I can't believe they actually did that. Sort of the calm of it, but then at the end, sort of seeing all the the action that you're going to be seeing. There's such a great tease, and maybe it's because of the snap of Infinity War that I was eating this trailer up, but once I got it, I was so satisfied. I watched it again and again and again, not to pick out different things, but to feel the tone in the movie. And you can feel that the tone maybe will be a little sadder, a little more grave, and much more sort of have more stakes than maybe Avengers Infinity War trailer, which had, you know, much more action, versus this one, which is a little softer, quieter, and more character driven, which is what I hope the movie's going to be. Excuse me. But then the winner was Mission Impossible Fallout. That trailer was amazing. I mean, that's almost better than the movie. That's its own piece of artwork. Using the Imagine Dragons song "Friction," you know, that ding 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 ding, and sort of you know, doing that in, sort of mixing the Imagine Dragons fiction song with a traditional Mission Impossible Fallout song was so great. The sort of quietness of it. There's so many great lines. Of course, I mentioned Angela Bassett. You know, Alec Baldwin says, you know, they would have got killed, and then Angela Bassett goes, you know, I know, that's the job. And then, you know, Henry Cavill and his sort of, you know, him trying to explain to the audience that, you know, Ethan Hunt, you know, maybe this is the fault of all his decisions. Maybe he's gone back, you know, maybe a guy like that has had enough. And then, you know, and he just drives the motorcycle and hits Rebecca Ferguson. You're like, oh, is Ethan Hunt going, you know, rogue here? And then you see all the stunts. You see him on the helicopter, and you see him falling, one of the best shots of the movie. I'm like, what? And you see him, that's sort of the rapid shot of him, you know, doing that. And then breaking his leg when he's jumping it. And then when he gets hit by the car on the motorcycle, and then when he's driving at the end with the car, ding, 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 ding. And I was like, whoa, it gets you so hyped for the movie, it gets you so excited. The action shows all the great sort of highlights of the movie. It's like bang, bang, bang. I thought that would be the whole movie. I'd be like, I saw the movie, but I didn't. So many great, the best lines in the movie, some of the best moments of the movie, the way it sort of crescendos to this great bang, 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 you know, action, action, action. Get ready, Ethan Hunt. You're not ready for it. You're never going to be ready for it. Mission Impossible Fallout rules. That trailer rules. I watch that on repeat almost every single day, just to get me hyped. I mean, that's the type of trailer it is, and I loved it. That's a great trailer. Okay, let's go over into the next category, which is Best Screenplay. Okay, Best Original Screenplay. The one I'm going to be going through the nominations are 8th Grade for Bo Burnham, Green Book, Peter Farrelly, Nick Vallelonga, and Brian Hayes Curry. First Reformed, Paul Schrader. The Old Man and the Gun, David Lowery. And The Wildlife, Paul Dano and Zoe Kazan. The winner is The Old Man and the Gun, David Lowery, excuse me. All right, so the very first one here, we're with 8th Grade, Bo Burnham. I absolutely love this movie, and I think this one, the script done by Bo Burnham, I wish I would have got nominated at the Oscars, because it's such an original, unique sort of take at a coming-of-age story. It's a movie that looks at the coming-of-age from an 8th grader girl, but today, and in the way YouTube and the way technology and sort of all these things influence her, and how she lives her day-to-day life. And there's so many great, really, you know, cringy moments, but great sort of awkward moments that you were trying to do. I think there was a lot of on-purpose stuff in terms of, there's a lot of on-purpose stuff in the way he sort of builds the awkwardness of the scene. And Elsie Fisher's performance is just beautiful, and the great little lines, and how her sort of cadence and her stutter to her, and how it's written. It has these great sort of visual moments and these visual gags, but also these really honest sort of words that they sort of ask her. You know, oh, you know, you're what, like, you know, 4 years younger. I mean, there's such a huge difference. Now, when did you get Snapchat? 11? Oh my God! You know, there's these really great honest moments. I think, as sort of a 9-year-old who is maybe not, obviously not in 8th grade, but just recently sort of did it, and sort of understanding a lot her experience, it does what great movies do, which is understand another person's experience in a way that you can relate to. And I thought I related so much with her character, and a beautiful, beautiful movie. It was a beautiful script. Green Book for Peter Farrelly, Nick Vallelonga, and Brian Hayes Curry. I put this in there because, yes, it's a traditional sort of story. Yes, it is something you've seen before in a lot of ways. I've seen before. That doesn't mean it's less good and less well done. And I think Green Book for me was the funniest movie of the year. 8th Grade was so funny. It had so many great moments, but it has those awkward moments. Green Book had me dying of laughter. I think Tony Depp's sort of dialogue and sort of Don Shirley's comebacks in a lot of ways were so funny, and how Viggo Mortensen delivers those lines had me dying. I mean, it was really the funniest movie of the year for me. I laughed so much, and I think that, yes, you understand sort of the criticisms against it, but I think in a lot of ways it comes from an honest place and in an innocent place. It's just kind of strange to say, but I think it wants to promote good. It wants to sort of do good. It wants to say a great message. It's not coming from sort of a negative, sort of pessimistic perspective, which I just didn't really take from it. I really enjoyed the movie for what it was, and I was dying the entire time. I thought it was so funny. All Tony Lep's lines, whether it be Pittsburgh or just the sort of crassness that he comes along with, and it's so honest and so true. I really related to that character, and I really enjoyed it. First performer from Paul Schrader. This was almost, there's some great scenes of dialogue, but also sort of the unique choices that he made. He's the director, so you can give some more credit there. But in terms of the dialogue, there's this great scene between Ethan Hawke's character and an environmentalist who he's trying to sort of talk down from a ledge in a certain scenario, even though he's not trying to kill himself. And they're sort of back and forth and how he's talking about religion, how that plays into it, and sort of that dynamic, but also how a lot of ways he doesn't have answers, and how him sort of talking and trying to talk to his upper power people in terms of the other minister, and then we sort of understand and sort of reveal to him his distraught and his personal anguish with where he is, and how he's a really broken man and has tried to find religion, but it's not working, so he's trying to looking at the bottle or other things like that, and how he writes his thoughts down, and those thoughts that he brings in such an existential sort of crisis to the movie that is so brilliantly written. But then all these scenarios that he does, the sort of choices in the film I don't want to spoil, but these scenes that are so strange and unique, and just a great mind to have to think about it. I'm glad he got nominated for an Oscar, because that's his very first Oscar. I think he already won an honorary one for his amazing achievement in screenwriting, but he's still doing amazing things today, and I'm glad he got nominated. I wish he could win. And then Wildlife, Paul Dano and Zoe Kazan. I love this film. I thought, Paul Dano did a great job directing, and then him writing with his partner Zoe Kazan has some really great moments. And I think that there's some dialogue straightly ripped from the novel, but I also think that there's some things that Carey Mulligan and Jake Gyllenhaal bring to the performances that's not maybe as explicit maybe in the novel. I haven't read the novel, I can't say, but the sort of overtness of Carey Mulligan's character and how she sort of talks to her child, and his sort of really honest, simple, but really strikes to the core kind of questions, and then Bill Camp's character and his sort of the way he delivers his dialogue, but how that dialogue was written and how it's sort of meant to strike an illicit response. It was really creepy and well done. And I thought Wildlife was a great movie that ponders a lot of questions, and looks at a movie that tries to look at your parents in an honest way. And I thought the writing was really poetic in this movie. But speaking of poetic writing, the winner, Old Man and the Gun from David Lowery. I talked about how they delivered those lines to Sissy Spacek, Casey Affleck, I'm sure you're guessing, who will be coming a little later. But I think that this is still a film that has amazing dialogue. It's sparse in dialogue in certain ways, but there's this great sort of dialogue and sort of monologue by Tom Waits, and him getting, kicked out by his stepfather when he was younger, and sort of the existential speech that goes on the front porch. It's simple, it's in layman's terms, it's not sort of this highfalutin. Maybe the problem I have with Ghost Story was that it was too trying to be, I don't know, high and mighty in a lot of ways. This one was a little simpler, maybe easier for me to grasp, but I think a lot of people do grasp, and he was able to sort of take a lot of these concepts and these ideas and these thoughts that he's clearly been having about doing something you love for the rest of your life. I think it's sort of disheartening to say it's just a charming film, because yes, it's charming, yes, it looks like the 80s, yes, it's so much fun, but there's so much themes and ideas I think going behind in this movie, and there's some great sort of moments of relationship, and once you see the movie multiple times, you know how it plays out, how Robert Redford's lines about his family sort of plays out. There's a mysteriousness to it that not only Robert Redford brings, but his sort of sparse choice of words. I think they're so unique, and I've never heard writing like this before, and it's poetic, but it's also talking great themes in simple layman's kind of terms. I really love this movie, and the screenplay was phenomenal. Okay, best cinematography. The nominees are Cold War, Lucas Zal, If Beale Street Could Talk, James Laxton, The Old Man and the Gun, Joe Anderson, The Ballad, Buster Scruggs, Bruno Del Bonell, and You Were Never Really Here from Thomas Townend, and the winner is Cold War, Lucas Zal. So Let's go for the first one here. If Beale Street Could Talk, James Laxton. What I love about this film when I saw it at TIFF was its sort of dreamy aspect to it. It's different from Moonlight, but similar, the way he sort of intercuts these personal shots where they're looking straight at you, the way it sort of floats like a dream-like. I mean, there's so much pleasure, there's so much, you hear sort of poetic or lyrical in a lot of ways with speaking Barry Jenkins films. I think James Laxton brings that category, the sort of floating camera to it, the movement in sort of a sweeping sort of a wind way, I would describe it. Really beautiful, and then interspersing the beautiful shots, these close-ups that are so perfect, but also showing some of the imperfections of the face. Really just well done and honest and human, and feels so real and adds so much to the appeal of that film. That was a great one. Old Man and the Gun, Joe Anderson. Once again, I talked about the style. It made it look like it came from the 80s, late 70s. It felt sort of a film, sort of gritty grime to it. It has sort of this great sort of yellowish browns he uses, oranges, great sort of green colors, and then contrasted with that sort of bright blue suit that he wears. That makes him stand out from this sort of dusty kind of world. And I think the sort of use of Dave Lauer's use of close-ups, but also Joe Anderson's sort of framing of the faces. He loves sort of the gaze in a lot of ways of these characters, and how they sort of, there's a great sort of close-up in the foreground, but also in the background. Sort of the color palette that he experiments with is really great in this movie. Bruno Del Bell, one of my favorite cinematographers, also did Coen's Inside Llewyn Davis. Roger Deakins often works with the Coens, but this one, he did a great job here with the Ballad, Buster Scruggs, and just that opening sequence. There's some great shots. When Buster Scruggs gets shot, and then you see him sort of laying down, and there's people sort of dragging. There's these great sort of wide framing shots. The way they sort of use no cinematography and the hanging shot, the way he covers. That final shot at the end, which is just two people in a carriage and there's not a lot of room, the way different angles he's able to take from it was really sort of stunning. I was like, oh wow, you could, oh right, there's this and that. And then, using the shot reverse shot that the Coens have been known for, but also using sort of different angles and side angles. And close-ups and mediums throughout this small little thing to make it feel so much more dynamic. I was very impressed with that cinematography of that scene. And then sort of the wide, beautiful Wild West that you can sort of photograph that's so beautiful and these amazing sort of sweeping wide shots. And then you would never really hear Thomas Townend. Some great sort of unique car choices, some really use of great close-ups. I'm thinking of sort of even just a scene where it's just, Joaquin Phoenix on the ground crying, how it takes it up and then slowly goes down. There's small, subtle camera movements that go on in this film, but adds so much depth to it. And then there's this great sort of car side-mounted shot that I really appreciated, and how there's a sheen that's always over sort of Joaquin Phoenix's character, and how the sort of camera, it's subtle, but the movements sort of make you feel like you're sort of peering in, and sort of the way it moves throughout the story really works in great conjunction. But the winner is, by far in my opinion, is Cold War on Lucas. This is a film that I'm so glad I saw. I really love this movie. It's one of those movies where it's not going to appear on a lot of these lists. Well, actually, it is going to appear on a couple of these lists, but a movie that could be in the top 10, 2 years from now, could be my number one. It's a movie that I'm still thinking about, still processing, but what you understand right away is the cinematography. Every shot is really masterful. It feels like this is his, him and Pavel Pawlikowski really want to make a great, they do an hour and a half film, but every shot is meaningful, whether it be sort of just the when they sort of meet for the first time, the two, in which is a shot reverse shot, but then the reverse shot of the man, unfortunately forgetting his name, and his relationship with the woman who has her eyes down on the paper and him looking up, and then was a reverse shot to Joanna's character, I'm forgetting the name of it unfortunately, and her sort of staying in this doorway, but then the people behind her, just this long line. There's this great sort of abandoned kind of ruined shots. There's this great sort of street shots that they do, and how they hold on certain areas to have that emotional payoff again, similar to something like First Reformed actually. Really just a beautiful, immaculate, every frame painting kind of shots. And Lucas, once again, he did an amazing job in Ida. And this film, I'm so glad I got to see it this year, because it was just stunning cinematography, really stunning. And I'm going to be thinking about that. It's going to be my desktop wallpaper. It's going to be everything. Let's jump over into the next category, which is Best Animated Film. The nominees are Hotel Transylvania 3, Incredibles 2, Isle of Dogs, Ralph Breaks the Internet, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, with the winner being Ralph Breaks the Internet. So we're going with Hotel Transylvania 3. That's a movie that I love just because getting Tarkovsky on his sort of style that was implemented in Hotel Transylvania 3, I think you could be excused for this sort of Adam Sandler comedy, but there's so many great sort of elasticity. I think he understands that with CGI characters in Pixar, they were trying to make them feel real, but they feel almost in a way sort of putty, not putty, but sort of actually, like dolls and figures and sort of robotic, and you can only move their arms, this much. But he loved the animation of Looney Tunes where you stretch these characters and they can do all these crazy, unique things. And I think there's even the unique comedy that comes with how the Blob walks versus how what would be Drax? Is that Drax? Yeah, Drax walks. And then Mavis and how she sort of floats around versus Johnny and how he does stuff. I mean, there's so much, there's every gag in this film that I think I really enjoyed. And the animation is different, which I don't think it's just for kids. I think it actually works for a bunch of different ways. And The Incredibles 2, an amazing sort of design, incredible how that works together with the film and that sort of futurist 60s style to it. Great voice acting by everyone. Craig T. Nelson, Holly Hunter, the kids, Samuel L. Jackson. I think the villain and villain characters, I should say, with Bob Odenkirk and Catherine Keener. Their sort of performances are amazing. I think Bob Odenkirk gives one of the best performances of the year. I know I didn't nominate him, but he has an amazing sort of great voice performance. It's either him, I should have read the category Best Voice Performance, him, Paddington 2 for Ben Whishaw, maybe I'll throw in. I know Jeff Goldblum from Isle of Dogs. And then I just think that the great story, there's some really amazing action in this film. It's more than just sort of an animated film that's for kids. There's some really great action sequences that you can only do in animation that I think are really, really brilliant, especially the end action sequence and all the different characters that they introduce. The Kristen Stewart-esque character, I guess you'd call her, I forget her name, which is really fun, and sort of the team of bad guys, the superheroes that they have to face because of the implementation of their decision. And picking it right from the last film, it's a great continuation, and I think Bad Bird talks about a lot of different themes and ideas which you can explore, but also some great action in the film as well. Okay, Isle of Dogs. This one was just a film that I love the score of it, that sort of Japanese infused score, just sort of the unique Wes Anderson-like visuals. I thought that the dogs were really charming and cute, and there's a sort of a texture to it that maybe something like Fantastic Fox doesn't. So you feel like these are sort of characters that you can move and touch and feel, and like this is almost like a little playhouse that Wes Anderson plays in a very unique style. I love Wes Anderson's style, so I really enjoyed this movie. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the thing why this almost won is just because how creative it was, how they were able to take the Miles Morales story and pop culture's sort of understanding of Spider-Man and elevate it. I think that's why maybe it actually goes down in my opinion, because I think it's not the first Spider-Man movie I'd show to people. I think you have to see a couple more Spider-Man movies to get the full effect of it. But Miles Morales' story, understanding his origin, really feeling emotionally connected to it, how creative the film was, how we sort of used that comic book panel-esque animation, very unique. I love that. And then Ralph Breaks the Internet. This one was the winner just because of how actually honest it was about the internet, and how the main characters and their relationship of friendship that I don't see too often, I really gravitated towards. And then that big end fight sequence, which I really enjoyed, and God's character, which is really fun, and I think they just understand how to talk to kids and how to understand the internet to kids, which I never thought would be in a way where, I think 8th grade in this way are a lot of great companion pieces, and I think Ralph Breaks the Internet is actually a better piece. And I think while it's an amazing family movie for kids, because it is a family movie, it's also great animation towards it, and I think there's some great internet jokes for the old guys too. All right, let's go over into the next category, which is Best Score. Okay, Best Score. I can see why these award shows take so much time. So the nominees are First Man, Justin Hurwitz, If Beale Street Could Talk, Nicholas Britell, The Old Man and the Gun, Daniel Hart, Widows, Hans Zimmer, and You Were Never Really Here from Johnny Greenwood. And the winner is You Were Never Really Here from Johnny Greenwood. First Man, an amazing sort of beautiful score that almost won. I was surprised that didn't get nominated because it's a beautiful score. It takes sort of the great moments of the technical sort of grimy nuts and bolts movie of the film, but also has this amazing sort of not sweeping, but sort of light on its feet, kind of magical, fairy tale-esque almost type of score to it. And then that beautiful sort of guitar theme, sextant, which is so well done. Similarly, If Beale Street Could Talk, Nicholas Britell, similar to how James Laxton, I talked about how beautiful the cinematography was, the score was just as beautiful in the way sort of it sweeps and sort of grand, and theme Eden was something that stuck with me throughout the year, which I really just loved. Old Man and the Gun, Daniel Hart, has a great sort of jazz score that really makes it just so much more fun and charming and adds to that sort of charm of the film. Widow's Hans Zimmer is a great sort of drum-based, sort of beat-based, and one you can listen to studying, which I listen to a lot, and it really plays well with the film as well, because with all these movies, the scores play well on their own, but also play well in the film, and it's sort of just that sort of pulsing, that sort of time running out kind of story that they're trying to tell, and that sort of pulsating aspect of the film that I really enjoyed. And then you were never really here for Johnny Greenwood. I mean, that's the winner, because similar to how much I really love the film, it's because of how unique the film was and how the score, in a lot of ways, is not a traditional score. We see guys like Johnny Greenwood, and the guy who did the Hereditary score, which I'm forgetting, but someone like Mika Levy for Under the Skin, using these sort of, and Johan Johansson, rest in peace, for something like Arrival or Sicario or even this year's Mandy, using sort of electronicness that goes away from the traditional orchestral version that makes it so unique. And I think every song, every track on the You Never Really Hear score is so amazing to listen to because it's so unique, it's so different, while also making that main theme sort of traditional and sweeping and really heartbreaking and honest and sad. And the film is definitely a sad movie and has a sad score, but also has these angry sort of violent, sort of screeching, sort of electronic type elements to it. It's so unique, it's so different, it's unlike a film score I've ever heard before. Johnny Greenwood wins once again. Last year he went for Phantom Thread, which is great. Sweeping more of a traditional score, this one's so unique, it's so different, similar to something like Is There Will Be Blood or the Master score. He does an amazing job with this. Best Design, the nominees are Black Panther, Bumblebee, Incredibles 2, A Simple Favor, and Paddington 2. And the winner is A Simple Favor. Black Panther has the amazing sort of Afro-funk aspect to it that I really enjoyed in such a world that I've never seen before, and bright colors and bright production design and great costumes and so unique African sort of infused elements of the film, which is really amazing. And Bumblebee, the one element I want to talk about here with this movie is just the fact that the karate, how they understood the 80s and the karate obsession versus sort of the car outfits of Haley Steinfeld versus sort of the San Francisco house that they have. There's all these different great elements of the film that feel really unique and different, and I love that sort of karate aspect. That's really sold it for me. Incredibles 2. This is, once again, I talked about before, that 60s future-esque style, what they thought the future was going to look like, really reminiscent in a lot of ways, and that sort of amazing house sequence that's so great. I mean, they understood the vibe of the world they were living in. And then Paddington 2, how can I not nominate this? It should be on every list. The movie was so charming, so amazing, constructed so wonderfully. I should have been nominating it more. I mean, I just forgot about too much, but the design is something you can't ignore, whether it be the pink sort of prison guard suits or just the amazing sort of house, or Paddington on all his adventures, and on the neighborhood sort of feels like a realized neighborhood. Really great. But the winner ultimately is A Simple Favor, mostly because of the costumes. I mean, there's a great production design, there's great actual the house that they live in is very modern, feels real, versus the school and the areas that they live in, versus something like the house that we see later on in the story. This is a movie that I really enjoyed, and sort of I wanted to give it some credit and some love because the pulpiness of it I just loved, and I think they understood it and understood the pleasures that comes with a movie like that. But the costumes are what it's at, whether it be sort of Anna Kendrick's sort of mommy, perfect mom kind of outfits that are sort of more traditional and more conservative, versus Blake Lively's amazing sort of suits that sort of have no shirts underneath them, or the skull cane that she has, or the dresses. I mean, she does so many amazing costumes. It's so much fun, and she's sort of that glamorous ideal, and it makes the story so much more believable from Anna Kendrick's perspective, because she's just such an alluring character because of these amazing costumes. Such an amazing sort of work on these costumes. I was really impressed with the costumes, but also the production design of the film, which is what kind of the design category is. Best editing now, nominees are Black Klansman, American Animals, Bumblebee, Old Man and the Gun, and Three Identical Strangers. And the winner is Three Identical Strangers. So Black Klansman, sort of intercutting that he does between sort of the Black Power movement and the White Power movement, I thought was really powerful, and the tension that he builds throughout the story of this guy who just goes into this Jewish man who goes, well, I guess the story is the Jewish man and the Black man sort of working together, but when Adam Driver's character goes into it and they start thinking he's a Jewish man, and sort of the disdain and hate and sort of the tension that they could burst at any time because of that, and sort of him getting out of that scenario. I mean, there's so many tension editing of this movie from Barry Alexander Brown, but there's also some really great intercutting that really promotes the message as well. Some great actual cutting to promote the humor, and sort of the delivery of the lines are really unexpected, and kind of a great humor for a Spike film. American Animals, this is a film that I really enjoyed and maybe should be on more of these areas, but so tense. It's like the last 15 minutes of Goodfellas is like the last hour of this movie. It's like, what are you doing? You're just watching a train wreck and you can't stop. You don't know why you guys are doing it necessarily, but they are doing it just because they're sort of fed up with their lives. And the editing, the way they sort of mix the documentary style with the realized fiction versus sort of the ways how people saw the story differently was really sort of interesting to see. And the editing I thought was just seamless and unique and different and really sort of Baby Driver-esque in a lot of ways. Check out American Animals if you haven't seen. It's a movie that's been sort of overlooked by a lot of people, and it's really fantastic. Bumblebee, in a lot of ways, has just an amazing, great story, and has a lot to do with editing. The pacing of the movie I thought was very sort of traditional, but really well done, and sort of even in how they keep everything low scale, and they have those action moments and those climactic sort of threat moments, and also the character moments with her character's arc in terms of the diving, and how they build the story up and engage the entire time. It's just a tight, well-made story, and I think I want to recognize Bumblebee for. The Old Man and the Gun, because I think there's a really great editing. One of my favorite edits of the film is when, there's the great line in the movie where he says, Forrest's not worried about, he said, I'm not worried about making a living, I'm just worried about living. And then as soon as he doesn't even say living, they cut right away and they see, Robert Redford, Forrest's character, Forrest just driving around and having such a great time. It's almost like he just wants to get to the next scene as soon as possible because it's so much fun, and it shoots you like a cannon out of the film because it's so unexpected and it used so effectively. It's a David Lean-esque cut I thought was really well done. And then the flow of the film I thought was really slow but also engaging the entire time. But the winner is Three Identical Strangers because of how it tells its story, of how it has this amazing story, but there's so many documentaries that have an amazing story but don't know how to use it and don't know how to tell the story. The way it sort of structures things, tells you the sort of ups and then sort of the rise to fame, but then sort of the questions they have as to why they were separated, and then the things that were revealed to you afterwards. It's just an entertaining film. You jump from one to the next and you're like, as soon as you get sort of bored with this, at the exact perfect time to go to the next one, and they introduce a new element, and there's so many different elements that you want to, when the film's done, you just want to be like, wow, I need to process this, but also how entertaining, how interesting, and you're like, wow, I just want to go on that journey again. Three Identical Strangers is a movie I would recommend. Okay, that's all I have to say about editing. Let's move over into another big 4 categories. First off being Best Director. And the nominees are Travis Knight, Bumblebee; Lynn Ramsey, You Were Never Really Here; David Lowery, The Old Man and the Gun; Bing Liu, Minding the Gap; and Paul Dano for Wildlife. And the winner is Lynn Ramsey, You Were Never Really Here. So some of the nominees, the first one being Travis Knight for Bumblebee. To take what Michael Bay did with the Transformers movies and make a different type of movie in the Transformers universe is a huge, massive undertaking. Now, I actually like the Transformers movies as sort of these guilty pleasures, but what Travis Knight was able to do was actually make a really decent, good movie with Bumblebee. He was able to craft a really honest, heartfelt story with great action, but small stakes, and he understood those. And I thought he just did a phenomenal job, really taking this franchise out of a really sort of fan even reception, kind of really poor, to something that's really great, and people are excited for the future. And I'm excited for the future, and I can't wait, and I love Bumblebee a lot. And sort of just the simplicity of the action as well at the very end, the parts where they use the Transformers as transforming into the action, the simpleness of there's Bumblebee, he's the yellow guy, he's the good guy, and there's a red guy and there's a blue guy, and they're bad. I mean, like sort of distinct visual, and especially in this one, the action's very clear, and I can't wait for Travis Knight to do whatever he does next, if it's Bumblebee 2 or maybe Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, whatever it is. I'm really excited for him to get a job and make another movie. And the next one here, David Lowery for Old Man and the Gun. I talked about Old Man and the Gun throughout. I'll talk about it a little bit later. Could be a spoiler. But what he does, everything, all the elements are because of him. He really understands his material. He has his own distinct style, his own distinct flavor to it, and sort of that sort of slowness of it, but in that charm, but also these sort of existential sort of themes. I really liked David Lowery's films, and I really, really enjoyed this one. And really, in my opinion, he crafted a perfect movie. There's nothing I would really change about Old Man and the Gun at all. And the next one here is Bing Liu for Minding the Gap. Talked about it before in the documentary, but just the idea that he make something so personal to himself and interject himself into his own movie without it seeming sort of navel-gazing or Michael Moore-esque. Make it real and relate to the characters of Keir and Zach, but then also sort of make sure that they're not getting away, that he confronts those questions. I mean, I hate when documentaries have such great subjects, but then don't ask the right questions. But ask the right questions every single time. I'm so excited to see what he does next, because he's able to take a documentary that I've never really seen before, a documentary that's very character-driven, similar to something like Hoop Dreams, and make it melancholic. I think this is on the level of Hoop Dreams and some of these great documentaries, and it's right up there. It's really brilliant, and it's got nominated for the Oscar. I'm glad it did, and if you haven't checked it out, definitely do. And then Paul Dano for Wildlife. This is his directorial debut, and I think he really understands the story and pays real specific attention to a lot of detail. The attention to detail in this movie is impeccable. Not only can he get great performances out of these actors, he's also able to make sure that the setting and the design of this movie is really beautiful, but also, the little things like where they sit and how that sort of affects power dynamics, and sort of how he frames everything from the kid's perspective, and then sort of even going past that, and sort of the way the dialogue is even sort of delivered, and how he takes a subject that could be very sort of hard to nail down and hard to express with the messages, and really delicate, takes it in a delicate approach in a lot of ways. So I thought that was really beautiful, and I thought I was stunned by it. But speaking of stunned, the winner, Lynn Ramsey, you were never really here. This is just because when I saw this movie, actually my first Lynn Ramsey movie was More in Color, and I sort of enjoyed it, but I was like, what is this? It was just almost too weird for me. I was like, who thinks of this kind of thing? How is this sort of different? And then when I saw You Never Really Here, that's the one of hers that really, I mean, there's some of the others, of course, I went back and saw, but that was the first one that really stuck to me and really connected to on a personal level, just because of how I think she understands depression and sadness in a unique way, and I think that's why a lot of people sort of are pushing for diversity and female voices behind the camera, because they have, I think, a unique perspective, and similarly to how Catherine Bigelow actually looks at sort of the masculine energy in a lot of her movies, so that'd be Hurt Locker or Point Break. I think Lynn Ramsey does the same here with You Never Really Hear, and understanding violence, but also the audience appreciation and kind of how they like violence and like the sort of sadistic kind of things, but then first moving that and then really just exposing this deep core that I've never really seen done before. She wins the Best Director because when I saw her film, I was like, I don't know what it is. That's such a unique voice. I don't know, it's not sort of just crazy over-the-top visuals that's different that you've seen sort of in other filmmakers. This is truly unique. This is different. This is a unique perspective that I've never seen before. If you haven't seen the film, go and check it out. It's a heavy film, but it's definitely worth the emotional investment. All right, so it's the top three now. First being Best Actress, and the nominees are Carey Mulligan, Wildlife; Toni Collette, Hereditary; Haley Steinfeld, Bumblebee; Elsie Fisher, 8th Grade; and Joanna Kulig for Cold War. And the winner is Carey Mulligan for Wildlife. Let's go with the nominees now. Toni Collette for Hereditary, amazing performance. The way she just battles with grief so well and tries to reach out so many times, and it's really a beautiful performance in a lot of ways. And she elevates that movie for me, definitely. Haley Steinfeld for Bumblebee, she brings that heart and relates with Bumblebee in such a unique way, and how she makes this sort of typical maybe 80s trope and brings to life and makes it more of a realized character. Elsie Fisher, 8th Grade, making, having sort of her YouTube side and how she's very personable and giving life advice, but then contrasted with her sort of studying sort of nervousness, awkwardness of real life, and her trying to figure that out and pretending to have a grip on it in the videos. That duality, I think, is one of the best performances of the year by far. And then Joanna Kulig for Cold War. She's sort of the typical, I guess, maybe blonde. Blondes like to have fun, they say, right? And kind of reckless, not over the top, but sort of reckless, sort of careless. Careless is the word I'm looking for. Free-flowing sort of energy to herself. She's incredibly alluring, but she's also dangerous in a lot of ways. And it's a toxic relationship in the film, but that doesn't mean you still don't want them to be together. I think that's a lot to do with Joanna Kulig. But the winner is Carey Mulligan for Wildlife, just because of what she was able to do with this character, this unique character who has had enough and is going to do her own thing. And in a lot of ways, I'm looking at this character, I'm going, she's making wrong decisions. This is not maybe a good person. She's making bad decisions. Maybe it's a good person, but she's making bad decisions. That's similar to something like Mildred Pierce, I think, in a lot of ways, where Carey Mulligan her character is trying to make the good thing is to try to do stuff for her kid, but maybe telling her, maybe being a little bit too open, maybe sort of affecting his mind. He's confused. He doesn't know what's going on. She's inviting him to his world, and it's very weird. And this is not a perfect character. I think this is a character that's real, that has mistakes and makes mistakes. And these are the type of sort of female characters I actually maybe like to see, because they're human, they're real, they're not, sort of the docile female character we've seen before, the supporting wife, or is it sort of the strong, over-the-top Wonder Woman with no flaws, right? It's someone who has a bit of both, who's strong and smart and wants to do the right thing, has good intentions, but maybe does it the wrong way and makes mistakes, but she's human. There's so many complexity to this character, and I think Carey Mulligan really performs this off. This is one of her, I think this is her career best. Something with education is really well done. Yeah, I mean, just stunning top to bottom. She's an amazing actress, and she really blew me away with this film. All right, Best Actor. Nominees are Bradley Cooper, A Star Is Born, Viggo Mortensen, Green Book, Robert Redford, The Old Man and the Gun, Joaquin Phoenix, You Were Never Really Here, Tom Cruise, Mission Impossible Fallout. The winner is, you guessed it, Robert Redford, Old Man and the Gun. So Bradley Cooper for A Star Is Born. I mean, this really year, like I said, in the Oscars video, but really for me personally, the Best Actor year was incredibly competitive. You know, I missed some guys like Christian Bale for Vice. I really wanted to put Ben Whishaw for Paddington 2 in there because he does an amazing job with that film. But Bradley Cooper, A Star Is Born is a real transformation. It's someone who, you know, has totally taken on this weight and battles with the addiction, alcohol addiction throughout the film, and his sort of, you can see the bright moments of him when he's, you know, never been like this. When people say, you know, I've never seen, you know, Jackson like this before, you feel it because he has so much energy when he's with Allie, but then when that sort of relationship goes, you know, astray, there's real heartbreak to it. And I think his gravelly voice is really immersive, and he does an amazing job with this film. And to think that he directed himself in this, to be so honest, to be so raw, you can tell this is a personal film through his performance. And I think the character of Jackson Maine does an amazing job with this. And sort of the ups and lows of his life that you ride and he wanted to ride, and Bradley Cooper understands every element and every aspect of his character. And Viggo Mortensen for Green Book, you know, he's played a Russian before. Now he's playing an Italian, and my oh my does he transform. I mean, as a half Italian myself, I do sort of relate to a lot of the elements of this film. The importance of family, the importance of sort of how maybe words aren't the most you know, eloquent. It's not a poetic thing. And then, or there's a great scene when, you know, they're getting Carlini's character, Tony's wife is getting the letters back, and then she's showing them to the family, and then he goes, you know, oh yeah, we're an artsy family, you know, great uncle was Da Vinci, you know, and all this, you know, funny stuff. I think that's very relatable. But really, for Viggo Mortensen's performances, the way he delivers all these lines, the way he makes it honest, the film really asks the right questions in a lot of ways. It was a movie that I was never like, well, what about this? It confronts a lot of things through Tony Lip's character, and his sort of funny moments that are so brilliantly delivered with the emotional moments that he really cares. He just can't say it. He cares about his wife. He just can't say it. And his emotional journey, his emotional arc is really empowering and moving in a lot of ways. It's sentimental, but I really enjoyed it. I thought he was, I mean, he convinced me he was an Italian, even though he's not. And then Joaquin Phoenix for You Were Never Really Here. This is a very quiet, internal performance that's almost hard to let out until he does, and then he sort of breaks down, and it's one of the most emotionally raw moments I've ever seen Joaquin on screen. Joaquin's one of my favorite actors. I had to put him in here for a movie I really loved. Tom Cruise for Mission Impossible Fallout. What can I say? I mean, the guy jumps out of a plane 100 times. He, you know, hangs off the side of cliffs. He hangs off of helicopters. He does it all for the audience, for our entertainment. I respect him. He's my favorite actor of all time. You know, I mean, Amy Adams is my favorite actor, period. But I guess he's my favorite male actor. Probably goes Amy Adams, then Tom Cruise. So it's really hard for me not to give him the win here. But the win for me still is Robert Redford for Old Man and the Gun. I've been sort of dodging this idea because, you know, I was worried, oh, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to I'll talk about Sissy Spacek and Casey Affleck, and I don't want to sort of blow over the fact that this movie, while it has so many other elements, it is first and foremost, I think, really well received by me because it is his last performance, and I think he understands that. And once he saw the film, or maybe sort of understood that, you know, this is probably the one that he's going to go out on. That I think it's a really great swan song. He has the amazing charm and realness of sort of this character, but also of Robert Redford, and in a lot of ways is an introspection of his whole career. And as one that sort of just floats in and out of our lives at certain times, similar to Sissy Spacek, we love him, and then maybe we forget about him, and then he comes back and just wows us again. He has more than just charm. He has real depth to his character, and real understanding that he just has got life figured out, and there's something incredibly alluring about that. I think Robert Redford really understands his character and wants to, you know, make the film as best as possible, and does that. And really, the main appeal of this movie is the central character of Robert Redford. So I think He's absolutely stunning in the film and by far the best actor. All right, cut to commercial break. And next one we have Best Picture. Okay, Best Picture. And the nominees are Bumblebee, 8th Grade, First Reformed, Green Book, Hereditary, Mission Impossible Fallout, Minding the Gap, The Old Man and the Gun, Three Identical Strangers, Wildlife, You Were Never Really Here, and the winner is my favorite movie of the year, The Old Man and the Gun. I'm sure you predicted it. Maybe it would have been, it's that and Wildlife and You Were Never Really Here and Minding the Gap. I mean, those are some of my top ones for sure. But I want to go through all of them here. Bumblebee, I talked about with Travis Knight, just the simplicity of the story, the heartfeltness. I loved it. I just came out of the theater smiling and grinning ear to ear. As a Transformers fan, I got so much more out of it. And I think even if you sort of have lost the Transformers fan, give this one a shot because it really has so much heart and humor and just a great film overall. 8th Grade, a realistic approach to the technology age coming of age. I really liked it, sort of looking back in a nostalgia kind of a way, but also feels very modern and very up to date, and it's crazy how this technology is such a huge influence in our factors, but then there's so many things that are similar. It's crazy. First Reformed, a unique film that had me thinking about it for days, that I just was so locked into it that I've never really been locked into a movie as much this year. Just trying to analyze it, trying to understand it, with an amazing central performance. Ethan Hawke. I didn't give him the best actor, which maybe I didn't even nominate him, maybe I should have, but he has an amazing performance, one of the best of the year. He's an underappreciated actor. I want to give him his little support here because he carries that film. Green Book, like I said before, the funniest movie of the year, very heartfelt, I really enjoyed it. Hereditary, I hated this movie. I don't know why it's on this list, but that's the reason why it is on this list, because I've never seen a scarier film in my entire life. I thought that was just, I was stunned by the movie. I never wanted to watch it again. I was like, why do people watch the movies? Why do people inflict this pain onto themselves? But the amount of fact that it had on me was unlike any of these other films. It stuck with me maybe the most out of any films. I had to respect it, so therefore I have to put it on the list. Mission Impossible Fallout, one of the best action movies of this decade, and really just the action in the film is non-stop, full energy, great performances, great ensemble, great team, great trailer. I said it all. Minding the Gap, I said it before, it's just a beautiful, melancholic, sort of emotional, character-based documentary. It doesn't necessarily try to drive a narrative. It talks about themes and explores those in a really honest way that I think I really appreciated, that I've never seen in a documentary before. Great year for documentaries. The Old Man and the Gun is my winner, so I'm going to skip that. Three Identical Strangers, once again, another documentary, so entertaining, one I recommend to everyone. Wildlife, great performances by Carey Mulligan and Jake Gyllenhaal. We also talked about themes of who your parents really are and diving deep into that. You Were Never Really Here, talking the ideas of depression and sadness, but also violence and our obsession with violence and how that's kind of wrong. And really an introspection onto the movie going on in itself. But the winner is Old Man and the Gun, because I think that is the perfect movie. It's got charm, it's got class, it's got energy, it looks beautifully. The performances across the board are amazing, and it talks about themes. I think there's more than just sort of, it's charming, it's fun, it's nice, it's a good Sunday afternoon movie. I think there's actually more to it. I think you can explore more to it. I've been analyzing it. I think the editing, how the structure of the film feels like there's no edits unless it does. There's distinct visual choices made in this film. I think David Lowery is a master of the craft and someone that I really want to watch for it, because he's made some really amazing movies. I can't wait for his next thing. So that's it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. It's a big long video. If you made it to this end, maybe just skip to the head to see my best picture. I may put time codes in the bottom. We'll see how much time I have. But those are the categories. I really enjoyed this video, and those are my thoughts on sort of all the videos. Make sure, the Oscar videos are still going to come. I know the SAG Awards happen, so I'm going to talk about those. And that'll be sort of in an acting race video that'll come out on Thursday. So stay tuned for that, and then I'll do the Oscar stuff, and then we'll go into more exciting announcements, because I have an Oscar sort of film analysis-based series that I'm thinking about doing, as well as some of my old series coming back as well. So that should be a lot of fun. That's about it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Until next time, stay tuned.